Hey guys, it's John Lee here. I'm on holidays in Indonesia at the moment. I've spent the last 2 weeks on holidays, traveling around Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, basically just eating good food, sleeping, spending time with the family, playing with my kid, getting a little bit of crazy house in there as well, but not too much commentary recently. I haven't had much of an opportunity. There's either been too much noise in the house or I have to keep things silent. So I've got a rare opportunity with a quiet house. I thought I'd try to catch up on a series I started up a while ago called Game of the Week, where I basically analyse a game without the pressure of playing at the same time. And this is open to games that I haven't played as well. So this time it's a match between opperwezen and xuanet, which the two of them are suggested. This is actually a game from well back in June. So yeah, I'd like to get into it. Apologies, I haven't really kept up with this series. The last game of the week was posted about 2 months ago, so it's more like game of the month or game of the quarter. But yeah, I'll try to revive this series and let's see how we go. There's been some positive feedback from it. So let's get into the game. Knight c3, not too common. Nothing's really wrong with it, but yeah, you'll often see e4 or d4 started with more often. Then e4. So, I mean, this quite often occurs where white's played e4, black's played d5, and in fast matches, white's pre-moved knight c3. Generally, if white has played e4 and there's d5, it's preferable to capture. And that's just because black can play d4 and start gaining a little more space than black normally has in Crazy House. So white's avoided the attack. Development occurs quite naturally here, and this is fine for both sides. If anything, I think it just allows black a little more than he normally gets out of the openings. So yeah, there's other ways of playing as white, but it's okay. So white's manoeuvred the knight over here, and already white's kind of spent 3 moves on the knight, which is already a bit of an indication that development's a bit slow. So one of the classic rules of chess is, you try to spend a couple moves on the pawns and 1 move per piece, so that you can get all your pieces out. But look, it's not so bad. Now h5. H5 is actually quite a common idea at the top level against this opening, and it's basically saying, well, you've got a knight here, I'm going to hit you because you're likely to castle kingside later on. The center is actually relatively closed, so black's in no hurry to castle either. The rook might be useful on h8. So yeah, this is actually quite a common idea. Pretty much just straight play here. Now if white plays h4 to stop it, which he can, quite often what will happen is black will later try to stick the knight on g4 and put the bishop on e7 and create some pressure on h4. So yeah, so there's nothing too unusual about h5 in the high level games. So white's just ignored it in this case, basically setting up the pin here, potentially coming in with knight e5. Black's played h4 straight away. Now, yeah, often I've seen actually black play e6 first, and that often stops knight f5. In this case, e6 hasn't yet been played, so white still has the opportunity to go to f5, which is nothing decisive yet either. But all it means is white now has 2 pieces attacking here. So black made the trade on f5, and look, if you assess that white's made 1, 2, 3, 4 moves with the knight, only to have it traded off by a bishop that really moved only once to capture the piece. So, black's probably had a few extra moves. Put a pawn here, put a pawn here. Mind you, this now makes these squares weak. So yeah, it's still roughly balanced here. It's just a little bit unusual. So I think both players by now would have been out of book, so to speak. So they're both in unfamiliar territory, and here's where the game really begins, where you just play crazy house. So, knight at f4. Black tries to get in straight away. Before d3 is played, mainly to hit g2, but there's also some pressure on e2. Rook g1, that's natural. And now black is about to get hit with d3. So before black does get hit there with the bishop, he wants to probably make use of the forward pieces, and you could do that by either pushing one of either this pawn or this pawn. The reason why you might play d3 is just to block this pawn here. That's a bit of a positional move. H3 is just straight up aggressive and pushing forward. And that's a move that xuanet chose. Capture, capture, rook's under attack. And it was just avoided altogether. Now, one thing I have to comment here on is these weaknesses. And black needs to be careful. In fact, here I'm already starting to like a move like pawn at e6 potentially. Giving up this rook is okay. If black recaptures this way, then it's a very quick checkmate. So after this, black would have to come this way. You'd probably like to keep the king out here, and then I think just the capture here is looking slightly better for white already. It's just that the black king has got a hard time trying to get back to safety. The material's balanced enough, so I think white would have the upper hand here. So in fact here I like pawn at e6 a bit better. Maybe black needs to play something like queen d5 to get some room for the king. Yeah, how the game progresses from here is a completely different thing. So yeah, black still needs to be careful, but I think black's got options going this way. Probably capture here. Yeah, already that is starting to look better for white. There's tactics to pick up the queen. Maybe black's still okay for this specific line. The two pieces for the queen is probably okay. White could play here first. Knight at b7 is a threat to watch out for. There's still dynamic chances for black though. So look, this is just a whole other game, but pawn at e6 definitely stands out as an option here. If you're black, it's often preferable to have this pushed up. That avoids a lot of problems because the e7 square becomes available for the king to move around on. So you avoid a lot of these near checkmate issues. But pawn at a6 is played, not pawn at e6. So this is just going on this line, ignoring the rook here and trying to put some pressure on black's king straight away. So if knight takes, here there's options as well. You could recapture the knight first, but I think white may actually prefer to take this. So white might lose a whole rook cold, but then there's all sorts of attacks happening here. Yeah, I think white's fine here. There's a lot of light square weakness happening here. I think that's sufficient compensation for the loss of the rook. So that did happen, but actually opperwezen took back with the knight. So yeah, I don't think it's any worse. I think black just gets another tempo to defend here, and if you allowed black to recapture the knight on f3, the queen was active anyway here. But yeah, my preference is probably something like a takes b7. I'm prepared to make that capture. Maybe pawn at d7. Yeah, even something like pawn at e6 could be an option here. Yeah, now black's probably standing better. That might be a bit inaccurate. Just seeing if I need to change the move order a little bit. Maybe this is to be captured first. Then pawn at e6. You sack the queen. King takes. This looks very dangerous. Black would have to go this way. Yeah, this isn't open yet though, so maybe black's okay. I think black actually runs out to the open here. It's very hard to checkmate black from here. Yeah, hard to say. Maybe there's no force made after pawn at d7 with pawn at e6. I just felt it was optimistic. Got other options like this as well. Black wouldn't want to take like that because he'd be trading a real queen for a fake queen. Take this queen, but I think that's dangerous as well. There might be some mate here. Can't play king d7 because of queen at d8, so we go this way. Pawn at g6 first. Yeah, that'll do the job. Alright, but I'm getting carried away here. There's a lot of different options. So yeah, they're just my thoughts on potentially taking here instead of recapturing the knight. But let's go through the game. So opperwezen chose to recapture, and xuanet played queen d6, which does a couple things. It's a good move. Probably about 4 different reasons. One, it defends the knight from the bishop. It defends e6 against pawn at e6. It makes room for the king to go to d8, which is often critical if f7 is under attack, and it also opens up an active path for the queen to attack here. So I like this move, queen d6. It's a multi-purpose move. Opperwezen's made the capture, and rook d8 is quite natural just to preserve the rook against this promotion with check. But you can see here how the position is quite different because black's had the opportunity to defend this knight and get the rook out of the way. So knight at c8. Hitting the queen, trying to remove the defender, also potentially clearing the path for b8 to make another queen, but leaving this open. I figure that white's going to capture the knight with check. That makes sense. And now the black king is actually holding a little bit of safety. So yeah, we've got an interesting position here. Black's given up this knight and has tried to start an attack here. Wow. And that move I'm not expecting. So already here I'm looking at this position going, well, where's the black queen going to go? And here's a case where if black doesn't actually do too much, which is active in a hurry, um, basically white's just going to be playing b8 queen and claiming a material advantage. Or potentially hitting with pawn at e6 or pawn at g6. So it's in black's interests to make something happen on the black king, particularly because the black king is actually relatively safe. There's no direct check which can hit the black king at the moment. So if black's allowing a move like pawn at e6, then suddenly white has direct threats with check. Here it's nearly like black can try to make some threats himself um, before um, before coming under direct attack himself. So obviously here queen f2 is a threat, the knight's under attack, but a recapture would be quite strong. Okay, this is also unexpected. So I was actually expecting g takes h2 for the main reason that it attacks g1 with check. It also maybe has a promotion here that's covered. But yeah, if this was played, maybe queen at f1 was playable. And I'm just concerned if black doesn't really hit effectively, pawn at g6 or pawn at e6 are going to hurt black. And there's moves like rook at e5, which just help to cover e6 a little more, maybe clear up this pawn after a block. And maybe something like take here. And that's basically just so that black's threatening to make a clean queen. Yeah, at the moment here, bishop at g6 isn't as threatening. Basically just because white doesn't have enough material to back it up. Yeah, so that's another game really. But g takes f2. Wow. So yeah, I suppose xuanet figured he'd want to activate the rook and capture the knight with check. So here's just borderline where white's up a fair bit of material, but then you kind of go, well, black's safe enough, and black's still got initiative. So it's a little bit unclear here to really say who's ahead or not. Bishop at g2 to block. And now black paused just for a moment to make a capture here. So let's just have a look. I don't think black had absolutely enough to find a mate here. But why don't we have a look? So the moves I'm looking at are either knight at e4 or knight at g4. Possibly knight at h1 to get the ball rolling. Yeah, this king can kind of just run out that way. So for example, I mean, you could be looking at something like knight at e4. Well, basically, king can't go to e1. His pawn at f2 is quite annoying there. Just threatening to trade off the queens. I think white's king's in more danger than black's. If you go here, then rook at f2 looks quite promising. Because now rook g1 is a mate threat. So black's making progress. And if you defended it with something like this, then pawn at e2 is really dangerous. It just forces off trades and That queen will be lethal. So the point of knight at e4 being it actually blocks off the defense of g2 as well. Maybe this should be captured. And the white king has to run up and try to justify its safety by capturing plenty of pieces. So move like bishop at d5 looks right here. So that's threatening rook at f2 check, king g4, pawn at h5 mate. And then there's discovery checks as well to come here. Yeah, don't really like the look of this for white. So yeah, knight at e4 already here is looking quite strong. You can't play king f3 straight away, that's getting mated. You come this way, the rook captures, black's making progress with check, take advantage of this block. Yeah, so maybe knight at e4 is direct, but xuanet chose to capture the bishop first, which pretty much does the same thing. It removes the bishop, but it just does it without check. So opperwezen covered up the most obvious check threats here. But now black's amassed quite a few pieces, and there seems to be a fair bit of initiative going. Wow, now this check here basically means if you capture it, then it opens up this, which is not much fun. And there could even be a more direct mate here. But well, xuanet just didn't even take it. He went knight at h1. Which I find a little bit unusual because I would have thought that d takes e3 would be sufficient. It's possible he was concerned that I don't know, bishop takes. Yeah, it just looks solid. I don't think he shouldn't have been concerned about knight d6 and b8 because the rook can just recapture it and then got plenty of defense back on d8 here. There's no mate threats happening there. And then once this happens, then you can just walk in here. It's pretty clean and clear. That's going to be mate. Here's just one example. So yeah, knight at h1 looks like a bit of a different plan. I mean, black's still fine. It just surprises me a little bit. So yeah, he's still got plenty of initiative here. He's just making progress. He's got another threat here. Bishop at f2 is coming. So all along it feels like if white ever tries to get an attack rolling, black should have enough to get the checks to win. I mean here that should be sufficient. White doesn't have a good blocker. King e2 would lead to this. You'd lose the queen with check. It's all over pretty quickly. So yeah, white's got to defend here, and here already it really clearly feels black's. It's just a matter of time. Like bishop at g3 is so strong here. He's going straight for bishop at f2. I would play bishop at g3 just to force white to put something here, and you could take here now if you wanted, but you could even take here. I think anything wins from here though. Yeah, here bishop e3 is a nasty double check. Yeah, I don't see the full mate after king d3. So let's play the game. Bishop at a5. Yeah, so you can't block with the regular stuff here even because of this double check now. So all the double checks are happening and queens are falling off the board. King d3. Now he takes this with check. Um, so yeah, it's black's got such a big advantage. He doesn't even need to play checks. Knight at e5 is a mate threat here. White tried desperately to make a counterattack. That's a mate threat right there, a double check. But yeah, knight at e5 is too strong. So yeah, xuanet took that very convincingly in the end with what seemed like a very ambitious queen sacrifice. If we go back, I just feel like black was so far ahead he didn't need to really force the win with all the accurate checks. What I feel though is from this point, um, after knight takes h2, I mean, if you look, black only has a rook in hand. He decided to take the pawn, and from here I was feeling maybe white had enough to hold the position. And it just suddenly turned in black's favour. So I'm just wondering here if there's a very accurate move here. It's not so easy to play. You can't back off the king either way. You'll get mated this way. This is not much better. Pawn at f2, very deadly. King f1 gets mated with knight at g3. You come up this way, well then you're getting checked and black makes a queen at the same time. So a block seems to be in order, unless king g3 is an option. So white still has coverage of light squares around his king. Perhaps there's some obscure looking mate here, where if you capture this, pawn at g3 has just enough. Can't back down, can't go up, that's mate as well. You go this way, rook at f2, shepherds the king to one of those two squares, and then you get mate anyway. So maybe knight at h5 is a problem there. And that looks like it's getting mated now. Capturing with the queen's not going to be much better. The queen's in hand. So yeah, this is a critical position. Pawn at g3, and I'm surprised to find knight takes h2 doesn't seem to actually look good for white. Can we try something like this? Maybe that holds the fort. Because white just really needs to get one move in where pawn at e6 is playable, and even if the queen is lost here. use a pawn or the bishop. That would be forced. And then now white has the upper hand with the attack all of a sudden. It's interesting here, because instinctively I feel knight takes h2 should be good enough with how little black has in hand, but yeah, maybe something like f takes g3 is a better attempt. Black could at least try this though. It's not so easy to defend that one. May even need to play something crazy like queen e2. And run the king up. Looks very dangerous. White can basically achieve safety if it can run out this way. So for black you might consider playing here to grab this. King here. Yeah, rook f3 looks very dangerous. Threats being queen at f1, knight f2 mate, or otherwise knight at f2 check, king e2, queen at d1 mate. This doesn't cover against knight f2. And if you tried something like this, it doesn't look good either. g2. Yeah, it's mated with queen at f2. So yeah, so white king would have to run up, and then knight at e5 is critical because you want to try to stop the king getting out that way. I think that's not preferable either. Maybe white can just slip in here. Which looks crazy, you've got the king right in the center of the board in a crazy house match, but that might be the only safe square, because it's actually defended by something else. The whole trouble with all of this is, even if black can't force a mate directly, you'll just get a situation where black goes, okay, I can't checkmate you, but I'll just get my king safe and I'll capture another piece. And then suddenly all the mate threats come back. So yeah, that's quite a sharp piece of play, where if f takes g3, knight g4 might be quite strong. Oh, what am I talking about? That's rubbish. Now the queen's just hanging, isn't it? Yeah, pardon me. That's just a whole line there you didn't need to have a look at. Missed this very obvious move. So that actually makes f takes g3 a better option. Because the difference is now, after pawn f2, black's got no pawn at g3 option. So you're basically forcing black to come up with something else. And then that might give white the opportunity to get that pawn in to start the attack going. So yeah, maybe that's a critical position right here. It's just the difference between knight takes h2, which leads to dynamic opportunities for black, or f takes g3, which just positionally stops black from progressing. Alright, well I might stop that one there, but look, that was suggested by two strong players, opperwezen and xuanet. I thought it was good to show a match that didn't contain myself as one of the players for a change. I'm going to try to catch up on some more of these, so I'm going to make another video. The next one will include me. It'll be between Math Ace and myself. so I'm going to get onto that one. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this match. Apologies for missing this and going through a whole unnecessary line. But yeah, I thought this was a good, interesting game for opening, middle game, and also the finish. So yeah, until next video, take care.